Hey everyone, it's Guillaume from Startup Basecamp. Welcome to Tech for Climate podcast. During the show, you will have the opportunity to meet the best climate tech founders, investors, experts from Silicon Valley and around the globe. They will share with you their stories and personal journey in this growing industry, giving you some insights on the ecosystem to hopefully help you to take part in the climate change fight and benefit from the opportunities that it can also represent. The podcast is divided in two small interviews. During the first part, you will get to know our speaker, their perspective on the climate crisis, and how climate tech is changing the game. The second part of the talk will be for our members of the community who will learn from the speakers their secret sauce on how to, sharing with you their unique expertise on various topics as fundraising, management, strategy, and so on to help you to become a better leader in your field. Let's go for the show. Hi everyone, during this new episode of our Founder Series, we are sitting down with Chris Entrepreneurial, serial entrepreneur, investor, CEO and co-founders at Carbicrete. We will start this interesting conversation covering Chris' entrepreneurial journey in the Cleantech industry, which has lasted for more than 15 years. Then you will learn how Carbecrete team developed an innovative technology to enable the production of a cement-free, carbon-negative concrete using industrial byproducts such as steel slag and capture CO2. By offering concrete manufacturers the process, materials, and support to make lower cost, higher quality precast concrete in a way that reduces their carbon footprint. Carbicrete opens up a new way to decrease the 10% of global CO2 emissions released by the entire concrete production industry. During the second part of the talk, Chris will share with you his fundraising secret sauce that he learned during his entrepreneurial and investor journey. This journey covers bootstrapping, choosing your investors, and other ways to finance your initial stages. Finally, Chris will share his view on the climate tech industry trends. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris. Welcome to the Tech for Climate podcast. We're very happy to have you here with us. So before we start, I'd like you to give us a 20-second intro about Carbitech.
Yeah, Carbicrete is a technology company that is replacing cement in the concrete industry. It's carbon negative concrete.
Fantastic. So let's start by the top. Can you tell us a bit more about your story and background, and what was your driver to jump into the clean climate tech industry before it became as hot as it sounds today?
Actually, this is my second startup. I've been in the clean tech for 15 years. 16 years, sorry. So basically, my first startup was in solar power, residential solar power. We installed, owned, and operated solar power on residential rooftop in North America in a company called Pure Energies. And we started that company in 2010 with four of us. There was four founders, and we grew it to about 200 people in about 4 years. And so we had offices in Toronto, San Francisco, as well as Seattle. And what we did is it was an online customer acquisition model. So we were like Priceline.com for solar. So we ended up growing that from a couple hundred kilowatts of solar power every month to 3 megawatts every month, which got the interest of NRG Energy, which is America's largest transmitter of electricity. Independent transmitter at 55 gigawatts. They purchased all the shares of Pure Energies in 2014. So that was a very good exit for us. And then I did not too much for about a year until my dad told me to go back to work. And then he introduced me to some people at McGill, which is where I went to university. And that's where I discovered, I was introduced to Mirdad Mahutian, my business partner and the CTO of this company, of Carbicrete. And I found out that cement was very bad. And I did not know that there was 2 gigatons of CO2 that were created when cement was being manufactured, which is about 8% of the greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. So it's quite a brutally intensive industry in terms of carbon. So they come up with this way to replace cement with a industrial waste called steel slag. And steel slag is, it's made, there's 230 million tons of it made every year, and it grows every year in volume, along with the growth of steel. And typically this steel slag is normally used as road base, for constructing roads. So very low value. It's like aggregate basically. Mm-hmm. And not all of it's used. A big portion of it's just piled up or put into landfill. So in place of cement, we use steel slag, this industrial waste, and we make concrete, CMUs, so concrete blocks and paving stones. We make it in standard equipment, and then we put it into a curing chamber, which is CO2 rich. And then there's a chemical reaction that happens where the CO2 is reacting with the steel slag, and it allows the product to gain strength really effectively. And so at the end, we've got high strength, very durable products that come out of a curing system that are ready to ship within 24 hours versus regular concrete, which is 28 days. And basically it's carbon negative. So because we're not using cement, we are avoiding, a good amount of cement. And I can give you an example. A regular construction block is a CMU, construction masonry unit, is 18 kilograms. There's normally 2 kilograms of cement in there, so we avoid 2 kilograms of cement. Therefore, we avoid 2 kilograms of carbon dioxide that was emitted, because it's 1 for 1 in the cement making process. And furthermore, we can sequester permanently up to 1 kilogram of CO2 into that concrete block. So you've got a net removal of 3 kilograms per 18 kilograms. So it's quite substantial in terms of its efficacy on the carbon side. So we've been developing this product and the business plan since 2016, basically. We've raised a bunch of money. We've opened up a R&D facility that's 1,000 square meters or 10,000 square feet for people in North America. And in that facility, we've got a full concrete lab, as well as an industrial lab where we can make full-scale products and do full-scale tests. And of course, our headquarters, which is only populated by our R&D people now. But we all have offices there and hope to occupy them at one point. And so that's our R&D facility. We are also running a full-scale pilot about an hour from Montreal, where we're making CMUs, the concrete masonry units that I was telling you about, at a company called Patio Drummond. And so the idea here is to convert, as many as possible masonry companies in the vicinity of the steel plant that we're doing business with, to outfit these folks with our technology. So that's what we're up to. We're a team of about 15 people and growing, and we're ready to take on the world. So.
Fantastic. So before we go too deep into the process, thank you so much for enlarging the question. But I'd like you to give us a little bit of a context here on the concrete industry today. You mentioned already the contribution to the climate change in itself in terms of CO2 emission. Do you see any things that are changing? How is the industry changing today, and what needs to happen to operate those changes? Is there any regulation pushing the market, and how does Carbicrete fits into that new dynamic? Maybe.
Yeah, well, it's difficult. It's really difficult, to be quite honest, because cement, like steel, is a very difficult to decarbonize industry, mostly because you need the carbon as part of the process to convert the limestone into something usable. So different fuels can be used at the cement plant, which will save some CO2. So if electricity is used, that's okay. But just the nature of the chemical reaction when they're making it releases CO2. So they can put regulations on it or carbon tax, let's say, for example, but it's hard for cement companies to modify what they're doing unless they capture the CO2 and do something with it. So our technology is great because we avoid that whole question by not using cement. So we don't have to deal with decarbonizing the cement side of it. So it's very favorable to what we're doing. Of course, as you may know, the concrete industry is there's well over 14 billion tons of it made every year. So more than 2 tons made for every person that's on the planet every single year. And so there's plenty of market uptake. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's the second most used product after water in the world. So it's basically limitless as to what we can do. And quite frankly, we're on the path here to decarbonizing it, and in fact, not just decarbonizing it, but we're carbon negative. So this is something a little bit different. There's a couple technologies out there that are lower carbon, or techs that do a little bit of the work, but nobody can say they're carbon negative. It's a big statement, and it's not just us saying it. We've had 2 life cycle analysis done of our product, and they both come up carbon negative. And we're continuing to do research as to how we can improve on our LCAs, the life cycle analysis that have been produced, so that we can get better and better performance on the environmental side of our product.
Okay, so with Carbicrete, can we go a little bit deeper into the process? So, how long did it take you with your team to build this whole process? And you're mentioning that you guys are using mainly steel slag. How do you source that? You go directly to the steel manufacturing, or are you guys also exporting them and using transportation to be closer to the concrete facilities plant? And how do you, in the process, if I understand well, you also are using like CO2 that you inject into the process. So how do you source that CO2? Is that something that you also use direct air capture technology to do that? Or if you can walk us through the process.
Yeah, so for the steel slag side of it, there's steel is being made because people need steel. They don't make steel to make slag. So so what we've done is we've teamed up with a company called Harsco, which is a Fortune 500 firm that is in the steel mill services, and they're the largest processor of steel slag. So typically at a steel plant, they melt the steel, and they once it's ready, they pour off the slag, which is the top 15% of the steel, and it's necessary to make steel slag to make good steel. But it's poured off and it's cooled by Harsco and collected. It's crushed and separated to remove any ferrous materials. And then it's sent back into the process, and the rest of the slag is, as I mentioned before, it's either put into landfill or it's repurposed as some sort of an aggregate. Harsco is our investor, one of our investors, and we have a supply and marketing agreement with them worldwide to take advantage of their 140 customers where they're at steel plants, processing the steel slag. So, a big part of our business, obviously, outside of the actual intellectual property, is, being able to allow our customers to have a proper supply chain. Because it's great if we have technology, but people need to be able to make this stuff. So we've worked hard on this with Harsco, and So the general idea is to basically identify good sources of slag, and then quantities and projections, and then from there we can test the slag. Once we've qualified it, then we can go and find customers that can uptake the slag around a steel plant. And much to what you had mentioned, it's better if the customers are near the steel plants, because otherwise you have to transport the material over long distances. So, right now we've identified, population versus concrete producers versus steel producers, and basically beginning our business model there. And the first place we're proving that out is in the province of Quebec, where we've signed up a number of customers to move forward with our technology. And we've sourced the steel slag, which is local, from a local steel plant, and we're effectively looking to build up this cluster of companies to be able to make Carbicrete products. And so the main ingredient is steel slag, but as you mentioned correctly, the other key ingredient is carbon dioxide, which our products don't cure in 410 ppm, but so unfortunately they don't cure in air, but they do cure inside of a curing chamber, which we fill up with CO2. Now, right now we're getting CO2 directly from waste streams that are collected by one of the gas producers that sell gas, and there's only 3 of them. So there's just a number of them, but that's not the the end game is to team up with DAC companies, direct air capture, and we're talking to a number as to what we can do together with them to supply us with the CO2 that can help us cure the concrete on a mobile basis. Because it's great if we go co-locate at a steel plant that's making 1 million tons of CO2 a year. I don't think we can take all that CO2. So it's much more of a dispersed type of model. Each one of our masonry plants can basically sequester or avoid up to 20,000 tons of CO2 per year. We need a number of these to be able to basically get the concrete numbers up.
Okay. And is the CO2, just out of curiosity, that you purchase, is the direct air capture CO2 that you could eventually buy would be like at a competitive pricing? Because I mean, a lot of I would say people are saying that the price from direct air capture is still very high. So is that something that would it be possible regarding your economical margin and that you have with Carbicrete, or is it something that in fact the price is still too high and out of the equation to make it profitable as of today?
I think it's high right now, but that's just a question of where it is in the technology curve. We're happy to take CO2 from one of the gas suppliers for now, at the prevailing prices, which make sense in the economical model. But the goal is to team up with the DAC producer that can produce it at a similar cost or lower, to be able to be a part of this effort. Now, then secondly to that, I mean, we are instrumental as a partner to a DAC, because it's great if companies can capture CO2, but they have to do something with it. You could put it into the ground, which is okay, except it might leak out. So why don't companies put it into concrete that you can actually sell as a value-added product? And that's a message we're sending out to the market. Go capture the CO2 and we'll take it. We'll put it into our product. And, quite frankly, there's many tech companies now that are paying, companies, DAC companies and others to capture CO2 and permanently utilize it forever. And there's no better way to do that than mineralization, because unless you burn the concrete, there's no CO2 ever coming out of it. So it's a permanent solution.
Yeah. Thank you so much. If you can maybe give us a little bit more insight about the economics of Carbicrete. What are the margin that you guys are expecting, and how far are you into the process to reach that margin in the future?
Yeah, I mean, well, we're trying to price everything in terms of the license as well as the steel slag supply, such that the end user, which is a masonry producer, can make the product for around the same price as what they are making today, and then they can sell it for whatever they want. So in terms of the end user margins, it's up to them to price it the way they want. But internally, I mean, we're a pretty light run company. We're not building massive facilities, which have a lot of capex. We are licensing. So as with many licensing deals, the margins are, healthy because there's not a lot of capex. It's mostly know-how and making sure that the companies have the right materials and process in place to produce the product.
So that's, and I guess, and I assume will help to scale. As you mentioned, ready to conquer the world. So if you can tell us a little bit about your plan to scale your operation and the size of the market opportunity, and maybe the steps to achieve that world conquest.
Yeah, so it's basically comes down to identifying good steel slag supply and signing customers that are not far from it, within 100, 200 kilometers, that type of thing. So that's the goal, basically step by step, go identify and convert.
And how far are you in the process? So now you're in Canada, Quebec, and what's next in terms of any international expansion within the next 12 to 24 months, or there's still plenty of...
Look, the next step is probably Ontario, to be quite. And after that, the United States. So we'll stay as close as possible to home, and then, thankfully, we've got a good investor that's a great footprint, so we can work on it as well. And move around with them around the world, in terms of getting the technology out there.
Any European expansion plan?
We don't have anything specific, but we have many interested parties there, interested customers. So we're trying to figure out the best path forward in Europe, because Europe obviously is ahead of North America in terms of carbon carbon mitigation tactics. So we're looking at the market. We're just trying to figure out where the best place to launch is at this point.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about the challenges and opportunities for the company in your current stage?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat?
If you can tell us a little bit more about the challenges and opportunities for the company at this current stage for you.
Yeah, well, the challenges are it's a startup in an industry that's been around for 2,500 years. So that's a challenge. And the challenge is, we're converting customers to a new technology, so they have to feel comfortable. So that's a hurdle to get over. But at the end, it's really the same product. The concrete that we call Carbicrete concrete is literally the same chemical composition as regular concrete. We just took a different road to get there. Instead of hydration, we use carbonation. And instead of steel slag, which is calcium oxide and silicates, we, instead of, cement, we use steel slag, which is calcium oxide and silicates. So it's just a different road to get to the same point. So but just trying to explain that is one of the things. So that's one of the challenges, and the other opportunity is the pandemic basically changed a lot of people's minds as to what we should be working on. There's only so many new iPhones you can buy. Basically, I think people's focuses are changing, to not about consuming and continuing to consume, but we should probably do something about climate change, because guess what? The pandemic, nobody foresaw this, and all of a sudden it stopped the world from spinning for a year, more than a year. And so it's the trailer of the movie called Climate Change. And I think that over the course of the last year, and it started before the pandemic, with Greta Thunberg, organizing marches. There was 500,000 people here in Montreal that marched on that day in September, in 2019. There's been a movement. It's no longer grassroots. It's it's big corporations now that are getting their feet into this. You've seen all those commitments Microsoft's made, Stripe, Shopify, that they're looking to buy down their carbon sins. They're trying to reverse what has happened so far, and so there's no technology better than a carbon negative one to help with that. It's not like we're planting trees in Indonesia. We're actually making hard products that cannot be, cut down or the carbon, released again. So it's a pretty unique solution.
Is there any opportunity in terms of, I would say, those carbon offset that you could eventually sell to companies in your business model, or not at all?
There's two revenue models. There's the licensing model, and then there's the whole carbon offset model. Quite frankly, it looks like it's going to be a big part of the business because as I mentioned, there's not a lot of ways to get rid of carbon dioxide. So we've got a very unique way of doing it in an industry that can take a lot of concrete, a lot of product. So it was well positioned, and not only that, we're stuck between the cement industry and the steel industry, the two hardest to decarbonize industries. And we've got a cool solution that still makes a good product that everybody needs.
So now, my last question that I'm gonna ask you for this part one is how the community can help you. If you have anything that you're looking for, or tell us a little bit more about how we can help you, people who are listening.
Well, the community, people can go to their architects and to their suppliers and say, I want Carbecrete concrete, and then they're going to come and see us. And this has already started to happen. We get phone calls from regular customers that are not masonry producers, that are people that just want to buy the product. It basically helps us to market to the licensees.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was a big pleasure. I don't know if there's anything that I didn't ask you that I should have. Otherwise, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, and take care, Guillaume.